I've called us to order. Please read the preamble, Liz.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm Liz Kukla. I'm the Secretary of the Board of Zoning Appeals, and I'm going to read the preamble this morning. In compliance with notification requirements of Ohio's open meeting law under COVID-19 emergency declaration, notice of this meeting has been publicly posted. All boards and commissions under the purview of the City Planning Department conducts its meetings according to Robert's Rules of Order. Actions during this meeting will be taken by voice vote. Abstentions from any vote due to a conflict of interest should be stated for the record prior to the taking of any vote. In order to ensure that everyone participating in the meeting have the opportunity to be heard, we ask that you use the raise hand feature before asking a question or making a comment. The raise hand feature can be found in the participants panel on the desktop and mobile version and activated by clicking the hand icon. Please wait for the facilitator or the chair to recognize you and be sure to select unmute and announce yourself before you speak. When finished speaking, lower your hand by clicking on the raise hand icon again and mute your microphone. We will also be utilizing the chat feature to communicate with participants. The chat feature can be activated by clicking the chat button located on the bottom of the WebEx screen. Slide. All meeting activity is being recorded via the WebEx platform. These proceedings are also being live streamed via YouTube for public view. We have provided a link to the meeting for those who wish to speak on a particular case via our website and email. We have also received emails from those who have provided written comment on a particular matter. Back to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Let's call the roll.
Mr. Donovan is out today, so Ms. Faith.
I am present.
Ms. Barnes.
So am I.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Ms. Britt, have you joined us?
We do have a new call-in user.
Should we have
She is muted. If that's her.
She needs to press star 6 to unmute herself.
Yeah, I just did. I'm here until my computer reboots. Yes.
Okay.
Hi, Ms. Britt and Ms. Johnson.
Yes, I'm here.
Madam Chair, we have a quorum. However, we have only 4 members this morning. And the appellant should be aware of the fact that with the 4 members, they risk a tied vote. And if the vote is tied on a motion, then the variance is technically denied. So the appellants have the right to request a postponement when their case is called.
I'm going to call it now so that everybody doesn't have to sit.
Okay, I thought you might want to announce the postponements.
Oh,
first,
yes,
Madam
please. That's fine. Thank you. Go ahead.
And Madam Chair, on your screen, you'll see that we have calendar number 20-205, 835 Brayton Avenue. It is regarding erecting a new in-law suite and an addition to the building on the site. They have requested, the appellant has requested a postponement as they work through some design review issues. And we are thinking the date for that would be February 22nd.
Without objection, board?
Without objection.
Without objection.
Okay, great.
And then we also have calendar 20-204 regarding 2429 Superior Avenue. There is a request to erect an 11-story square foot mixed-use building. They are also requesting a postponement as they work through some design issues. I believe they're working with the city at this point. So again, Madam Chair, we can give them the date of February 22nd.
Without objection?
Without objection.
Without objection.
Great. Okay. Now I'm going to call the 11800 Sprecher Avenue and alert them to the fact that we only have 4 board members this morning. Is the Ameritrust Company National Association somebody representing them here this morning?
Yes, we are, Ms. Johnson.
And you are?
Christopher Maduri, Scott Feinerman, Clevenders, and Thomas and Brescia.
We wish to postpone until this was a last minute thing, otherwise we would have notified you.
No, that's okay. I think we can move forward.
Okay. Ms. Faith, would you like to read 20-151 at 11800 Spooker Avenue?
Absolutely, Madam Chair. Calendar number. Can people mute if you're not speaking right now? We're getting a lot of feedback. Okay, thank you. Calendar number 20-151 at 11800 Sprecher Avenue. Ameritrust Company National Associates owner proposes to erect a 50-foot high by 51-foot by 16-foot two-sided electronic digital billboard in a B2 general industry area. The owner appeals for relief from the strict application of the Cleveland Codified Ordinances as stated in the agenda and the public record.
Oh, we have nobody to swear anybody in. Ms. Barnes,
Would everyone,
who-
I can do it. Somebody else can do it.
who's doing it?
Alana.
Okay,
I'll do it. Will
Okay.
everyone, for this case, please raise your right hand. Repeat after me. After we conclude the pledge, you will respond individually by stating your name and with a response that I do. Do you swear and affirm that the testimony that you are about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do. Christopher Maduri.
I do, Scott Feinerman.
Brian Casey, I do.
okay. Is that all?
I do, Melissa Miller.
Okay, Melissa, good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, if we have everybody, let's have the history of the property, please. Ms. Cooper.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There's been no change in the zoning since 1929. I didn't find any records in our building and housing records room on this address. There are no variances on file and nothing of note in the more recent history. That's all that I have.
Oh, fine. Thank you very much. The legal standard will be judging the case on, please. Ms. Wagner.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. Appellant is requesting a use variance and area variances from the spacing and distance regulations of the zoning code. To obtain the use variance, appellant must prove that denying the request will result in unnecessary hardship particular to the property, such there will be no economically feasible use of the property without the variance, will deprive the appellant of substantial property rights, and the granting the variance not be contrary to the purpose and intent of the zoning code. To obtain the area variances, appellant must prove that denying the request will create a practical difficulty not generally shared by other land or buildings in the same district, will deprive the appellant of substantial property rights, and that granting the variances will not be contrary to the purpose and intent of the zoning code.
Thank you very much, Ms. Wagner. Who's going to be the spokesperson for this group?
Christopher Maduri.
Okay, Christopher, tell us exactly what they'd like to do.
Okay, well, first of all, thank you again for allowing us to be present in front of the board here and with our appeal. And also, we know that most were up late last night, as we saw. I wasn't sure if that was Cozart, a Slaughter, and Mike Pruitt, or it was Baker to his boys, but it sure reminded me of the 80s. It was sure a lot of fun. And I was glad my young grandkids could wear their sports attire with masks on and enjoy the game with their grandpa. Anyway, so that was a lot of fun, but thank you for being present. Thank you for allowing us to be on board here this morning. My name's Christopher Maduri. Been in the marketing business, entertainment business for probably 35 to 40 years. Partners Tom and Brescia and Scott Feinerman. We're all Clevelanders. We try to be as responsible as we can. We've all been in the business for decades. And did I just lose connection?
No,
No, we can still hear you.
Okay, the screen went
video was flickering for me. I don't know if it is for everybody else, but it's okay.
But how's my audio?
Fine.
Hi.
Okay, all right. Yeah, the screen just went blank, but anyway, I'll keep going. So we've been in the business many years. We are as responsible as you can imagine. We have families that we respect. Never want to embarrass our families. And with this project, would never embarrass the city of Cleveland, Councilman Casey, Mr. Collier, who has sent a letter of somewhat of a letter of support on the project as well. We've done our due diligence for over a year now, to the best of our ability. We sought out the land, and we have a deal in progress with Ameritrust, as mentioned. They've owned it since 480 was built, and they've done nothing with it. It's virgin property, but it's good property, and we think we could take advantage of it. As mentioned, we have ODOT approval. We have the support of Councilman Casey, so somewhat support. I've not seen the letter, but I know that Mr. Collier sent a letter of support as well. So the plan is this: High Sign, which is our new company, we propose to plan, develop, construct, and allow marketers to market their products on a standard two-sided digital billboard on the south side of the city of Cleveland, which essentially is right near that Tiedemann Road exit. If you're rolling 480 west, you could get off at Tiedemann, or you could get off at West 130th, and that's the area where it's located. Again, we have approval from ODOT. We have support from the councilman as well as Mr. Collier. How are we going to use it? We're going to build continue to build our business for our own family. We're going to allow the city of Cleveland and that ward where Councilman Casey presides over. We are going to allow weekly access for messaging on our board as a Friendly Nations decision that we made to support the area. National advertisers will market their products and their goods on a rotating basis. It helps maximize their sales, helps maximize local business sales, the benefit to their.
We've lost him.
Yes, he dropped off.
So this is Tom Ambrescia. Let me pick up, if I can, for a few seconds on where Chris was going. As we said, we are allocating X amount of inventory to the community and to the city to propagate benefit to the community and its members and to the city. As Chris mentioned, we're lifelong members here. I've owned literally every radio station in Cleveland at some point in time. Magic 105.7, WDOK 102.1, ESPN Radio, Wixie 1260. So I've been around for a long time. We've always done the right thing. And we're looking for this variance on a short location between the next sign down the road. And I'll maybe have Brian Casey, Councilman Casey, speak up now at the moment in terms of what his thinking is.
Councilman Casey?
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Is there anybody else? I'd like to go last.
I understand that, but he called on you, and I thought maybe there.
Okay, well, let me take that back here if I can. And Melissa, you were speaking or not, Scott?
No, I have nothing to add.
Thank you, Scott.
Melissa,
Melissa?
do you have anything to add? Are you speaking?
Yoo-hoo.
Chris Mattery.
Melissa?
Thank you very much. Melissa Miller, Bel Air Puritas Development Corporation. I'm sorry you guys keep cutting out. We at Bel Air Puritas Development Corporation, as the local neighborhood development corporation, support a variance for this sign. It is located between the highway.
We lost you.
It's not near any residential property. It will not affect any residential property. So we are in full support of this project.
Okay, thank you, Melissa. Okay, Councilman, you're up.
Ms.
Thank
Johnson,
you.
you do that very well.
And you're still wearing your Browns outfit left over.
Over to my Buckeye stuff later on this afternoon.
Okay, fine.
So thank you, Madam Chairwoman, and other members of the board. This is a very unique piece of property in that it's not really buildable. If you can look on the picture, even though the address is on Sprecher Avenue, which is a residential slash semi-industrial street, it kind of just dead ends, and it's property that is just unbuildable since they put 480 in there. I've been out to the site on a number of occasions. I've worked with High Signs and Mr. Ambracia and Chris over the last couple of months in regards to this. I know that a lot of individuals are not keen on signs, especially billboard signs going up, let alone digital ones. However, I believe that this is the right place for it. There are other digital signs directly across the other side of the highway in the city of Park.
I'm back on.
This would be probably the perfect place for it. And I'm also overly excited that they have agreed to offer the city of Cleveland advertising space on it as well, which of course, as well as with Amber Alerts and police alerts and fire and EMS, they've been very good partners working with us. They know my biggest concern was how it would affect any residential properties. Although after going out to the property on a number of occasions, it definitely won't affect any residential property. And I'm in full support of this billboard going up.
Do we have a drawing of what it would look like, Maurice? Oh, okay.
I'm assuming that's the applicant's rendering?
Yes.
What it's gonna look like?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And it's digital. So how often is this changing?
Every 8 to 9 seconds, Ms. Johnson.
I'm sorry.
Every 8 to 9 seconds.
8 to 9 seconds. Okay.
Yeah, that's in accordance with the law. Really, that's really, and that's reasonable for advertisers too. We wouldn't want it any faster than that, and it would be a disruption. So that's in accordance with the law.
And Madam Chairwoman, but I know that Director Collier is not on the line, but I have had conversations with Director Collier as well of his support over this, as well as ODOT. Thank you.
Thank you. Liz, do we have any other letters or for either opposing or affirming?
No, we just have that letter from Director Collier. There it is on the screen.
Yeah.
I haven't received any other emails or letters.
Okay, good. Yes. He does not object. We have the letter on the screen. Fine. Any other questions, board? Not, I'll entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, given the support of City Planning and Director Collier, the support of Councilman Casey, and the support of the Bel Air Puritas CDC, and I think especially important here is the public service component of this project. I think it's a great way for the company to be working and collaborating with the city. With all that, I move that we approve this variance.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Call the roll.
Madam Chair, just for clarification, do we want to make that public service component part a condition of the approval, or are we just making a note in there?
We could put it in there, could we not, Miss Wagner?
You can, if the appellant has agreed to it, which they have.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so
We'll do an addendum that will put the
Thank you. Faith, Ms. Faith, would you like to make that addendum, state that it'll be a condition of the motion?
Certainly, Ms. Kukla. It's my understanding that the appellant does agree to that component of the variance. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. With the agreement of the appellant, Ms. Kukla, I will amend the motion to include the ongoing use of the billboard for public service announcements as part of the variance.
Thank you very much.
Okay, call the roll.
Ms. Britt? Ms. Britt, you may be muted.
Kelly?
Okay, I'll go on. Ms. Faith?
Yes.
Ms. Barnes?
Yes.
Ms. Johnson?
Yes.
Calendar 20-151 is granted with the stated conditions. It'll be ratified on the 25th, and we will send you a letter.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
We'll do a good job here for the
Elizabeth.
city.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, members of the board.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay, calendar 20-206. Ms.
Thank you,
Faith?
Madam Chair. Thank you, Madam Chair. Calendar 20-206. This case is appealing the Landmarks Commission decision regarding 4500 Lorraine Avenue. AV Property Group owner appeals under the authority of Section 76-6B of the Charter of the City of Cleveland and Section 329.02D of the Cleveland Codified Ordinances from the decision of the City of Cleveland Landmarks Commission rendered on November 12th, 2020, which denied the demolition of 4500 Lorraine Avenue, filed December 8th, 2020.
Thank you very much. Are you also going to swear everybody in, Ms. Faith?
Will everyone for this case please raise your right hand and repeat after me? After we finish the swearing in, you will respond individually by stating your name, followed by I do, if you do affirm the swearing in.
Right hand if you have one.
Right hand, please.
Thank you.
Here we go. I swear and affirm that the testimony I am about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth. You may respond now.
I do, Donald Chris Jasinski.
Okay, we got Don Pettit, Christian.
I do, Christian Babette.
Okay, thank you.
I do, Matthew Klein.
I do, Robert Powell.
Okay.
Elwin.
Is that everyone?
I think we're missing Elwin.
Has everybody been sworn in?
Elwin Robinson hasn't been sworn in yet. Is he on the
Is he present?
I don't have a list of the people on the call right now.
He's got his microphone muted.
We have him as a call-in. Is he muted?
There is a call-in user number 2 that's muted. If you're listening, hit *6 to unmute yourself.
Elwin, you need to unmute.
Elwin Robinson, can you hear me now?
Yes.
I can hear you now.
Very good, thank you.
Okay.
I do.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
A legal
All right,
standard.
Madam Chair.
Ms. Wagner.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. Appellant is appealing an administrative decision. The standard of review to be applied is whether the administrative decision was illegal, arbitrary, capricious, unreasonable, or unsupported by the preponderance of substantial, reliable, and probative evidence. If the appellant fails to meet this burden, the administrative decision must be affirmed.
Madam Chair, if I could jump in, again, this is Liz Kukla. Just as a reminder, there are 4 members here. The appellant has the right to request a postponement. As if there is a tied vote, the request would be denied.
We request to continue.
Thank you very much. And who was that was speaking?
Robert Powell.
Thank you. And you represent the owners?
I'll be the primary person, yes.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay, so would you like a date, Madam Chair?
No, they're not postponing.
Oh, I'm sorry, I misunderstood. I thought he said that they request to continue.
I meant continue today. Sorry.
Today, yeah.
So you're going forward. Okay, great. Thank you.
Oh.
Moving right along. Okay. And Robert, are you going to be the spokesperson for the group?
Yes, I'll be the spokesperson, and I will ask my different group members to speak up when their part time comes.
Okay, go right ahead.
First, I'd like to just appreciate you adding us onto the meeting at such short notice. I'd like to just note that we're not planning to rehash all the things that we've been talking about for the last year with landmarks. There's hundreds of pages of documentation that we could reference if necessary. Today, we're really only presenting just limited to why we believe this appeal should be granted. At this point, I'd like to just introduce the members of my team. My name is Robert Powell. I've been a licensed architect in the state of Ohio for 20 plus years and a resident in Cleveland since over 30 years. Elvin?
My name is Elwin Robinson. I'm a professional engineer in the state of Ohio. I also teach at Kent State University in the School of Architecture.
Chris?
Anybody else you're going to introduce?
Chris?
Hi, my name is Chris Jasinski. I'm a structural engineer. I've been an engineer for 18 years now. Seen a little bit of the country, East Coast, West Coast, and everywhere in between. Do a lot of forensic engineering work and do a lot of work on forensic work or historic work as well as my own personal home.
And then Matthew and Christian are clients.
Hi, Matthew Klein. We've been investing in Cleveland since 2009, and I actually enjoy Cleveland. Unfortunately, we can't get over there at the moment. They won't let us out of Australia.
All right. Okay, so Maurice, are you the one driving this thing? The presentation? I'd like to just start just really briefly, the first 3 slides. Just this is just as it is to this is a picture of 4500 as it is today. Next slide. It's just a side view. Again, next slide. And then just an overview of the project and the street. Next, please. So we're requesting an appeal on the ruling from the Cleveland Landmarks Commission, which denied us demolition of 4500 Lorraine. Factors which substantiate this request are as follows. Basically, initially the demolition alone, it would substantially alter the neighborhood by removing a corner building. Although this appeals is not for the redevelopment, the intent of the new plan, which has not yet been approved, would have replaced the corner building with something of similar character and style. Ultimately, we feel would be improving the neighborhood. Next slide, please. Again, this has not been approved, but with just something that would let the council and the board know that we know that this will substantially alter the neighborhood, but we are under the aware we do have to have the plans reviewed and approved. the neighborhood and the city. But this is kind of the general gist that we're moving. And this is not part of our appeal, but just wanted to let you know as a background of what we're doing. Next, please. Elwin.
Yes, I visited the site on November of this last year, and there is a significant bow in the south elevation. Robert has been taking measurements over time, and we have observed that the wall has been moving over the past year, and that movement is accelerating slightly. If we can go to the next slide, please. And at another view, what you're seeing is the inside of the masonry wall relative to an interior plaster partition. And measurements have been made relative to the interior partition, which is staying still, and the outside wall, which is moving. Next slide. Thank you.
It's moving.
Yeah, these measurements just show the magnitude of movement. It's about 3/16 of an inch that we've observed increase in the measurement. Next slide, please. And then again, these just show the continuing movement. If we can go to the next slide, please. And again, a little broader view, so you see how this outer wall is bowing relative to the interior plaster partition. Next slide, please. Here's a view of the exterior showing that bow. We have measured that bow, and it is about 4 inches. We used a laser and used actually a plumb bob as our reference point. And then I believe the next slide shows just a few graphic lines put on there to emphasize the actual bowing that we have. There we go. Thank you. And that gives us a pretty good sense. And this is what we have measured. This is the kind of bow that we have. The issue that we have is that the center of gravity of that wall now is outside of the middle third of the wall. And that means that the assembly has become unstable, and we really cannot verify it, or it is obviously intact on the building, but its stability is very much in question once that middle third point has been exceeded. And we are about an inch beyond the middle third point. Next slide. This is actually from the report, and it illustrates what happens when you go outside the middle third. The red arrows indicate theoretical tension within the wall, but of course masonry cannot withstand that tensile force, and so the compressive forces increase very rapidly, creating this instability. Next slide. I think that I can respond to any questions that you have regarding this instability, but I'll pass it now back to Robert.
For Chris and Matthew, please.
Yes, hello all. Christian Babette, I'm the joint owner with Matthew Klein, who just spoke earlier. We've been investing, as Matthew said, in Cleveland since 2009. We are long-term investors in Cleveland. We own other buildings within the Cleveland area. As the slide shows,
he got lost there. Basically, what we'd like to say is that this condition that we're dealing with, it was hidden. And not until we started the demolition did it appear. Can you next slide, please? I think Christian's back now. Oh, maybe not. As you can see at the top of the slide, at the top of the slide, you can see the original wall that was built. And in front of that wall, the previous owners had built a new wall that was vertical and completely hid the condition of the wall being bowed out. I think you're back on, Christian. Sorry, I had to jump in because we lost you.
Can you all hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Sorry, I lost you earlier. So I was saying that obviously we're long-term investors in Cleveland, and with this building we've owned since 2011. We only became aware of this issue with the wall in 2017. on a visit to Cleveland, and since that time we've been working pretty much consistently with a number of experts. Obviously, Robert is one of them, also Chris Jasinski, to find a solution for this building. So it's been an ongoing process for the last 3 years. But it was always our intention to renovate the building. We never had an intention to demolish the building. So this is a conclusion we've come to after a lot of work, but it was never our intention. We always wanted to keep the original building.
And if you,
Matthew, did you want to add anything at this point?
Over the last few years, we've had we haven't taken on any other tenants on the building, so we haven't been putting tenants in. We've been keeping the building vacant. The only tenant left in the building at the moment is the barber. The barber is under a 5-year lease with over 2 years to run on the lease. We have expressed the safety concerns of the building and provided an eviction letter to the barber in November 2019. Unfortunately, the barber is refusing to move out. The perception the barber has received from the Landmarks Commission is the building is safe and can be repaired. And as we know, this is not the case. And at some point, as I was saying, the wall will come down. We've locked the barber out of all payment systems, so no rent can be received. We've also requested assistance from the Landmark Commission with the eviction process of the tenant. This is a massive safety risk to the public, and the building really needs to come down for the safety of the public. And I'll put it back to.
Okay, next slide, please. Chris Jasinski, please.
Good morning, all again. So I was involved with this project, or became involved with this project originally in the fall of 2018, when Matthew and Christian reached out to me after I assisted the neighboring property owner by Jim Mikado with filling the sidewalk vaults out in front of their property. And he recommended me to Matthew and Christian. When I got involved with it in 2018, they identified the front wall as having a slight bow in it. As a forensic engineer, I tend to carry my camera with me all the time. And it was one of those conditions where you looked at the building and it was like, it's blown out a little bit, not such a big deal. I was reached again, come around Christmas time of 2018 and rolling into January of 2019. And the wall had bowed out significantly since the time I met with them in late October, early November. And with the bow in the wall, it kind of stumped me as to what was going on with it. So I immediately reached out to WR Restorations, which is in my opinion, one of the premier masonry restoration companies in the Cleveland market. And we involved them then back probably in not long after that, late January of 2019. And at that point, we went through many different iterations of means and methods to try to figure out how to stabilize the wall and how to make the building safe again. We looked at using tiebacks to try to tie the wall down. We tried looking at FRP systems, which is fiber reinforced plastic systems to tie the building together so it didn't come down. And every time we came up with a new solution, what always it filtered back to was, okay, great, this may work on how to fix it. However, how are we going to protect our employees while they're doing the work? And it always came down to that protection aspects of it. We look, there was ideas of using scaffolding to get there. Unfortunately, that wouldn't work because the people would be working on the scaffolding that the brick could potentially fall and cause the collapse of said scaffolding. We looked at using man lifts to do the work. Unfortunately, there's a significant number of power lines that are high tension lines or higher voltage lines at the top of the pole. and lower voltage lines that are in front of the building that deny the access of using a man lift in that vicinity to do the work on the building. We resolved that. We went back to the, even some of the ideas that we got close to having a solution to. We laid that out before the Ohio City Board, and as we've further developed it, the economics of it just didn't make a lot of sense, and on top of that, trying to again run into the safety aspects. So we went through many iterations on that. Following that, while all of this was going on and the safety issues, Robert, unbeknownst to me, asked Don, actually, can you move to the next slide, please?
Next slide.
So this is my report that I wrote in November of 2019 to further suggest that the wall needs to now move and come down. Next slide.
Again. Next slide.
So Robert reached out to Don Tyson over at WHS. I've worked with Don on other projects before as an independent consultant, more specifically at 3100 Euclid Avenue with the building right next to News Channel 5. At that time he worked for Bowen and Associates, and he and I worked on coming up with new designs, which also was a unique project, but that's a story for a different day. After we got in there, and Don also concurs with the conclusion that the building is unsafe and needs to be torn down, or at least the south elevation and east elevation, and then after we were denied by landmarks, we asked Elwin to join. Next slide, please. We asked Elwin to help us with the historic aspects of it, plus the structural aspects, to see if we left any stone unturned as to how to fix the building. Unfortunately, Elwin wasn't able to come up with any other solutions or any other conclusions that myself and Don had concluded previously. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. One more slide. So then we also asked another contractor who I also respect a lot, and I've worked with, and he's out of state, or he's not out of state, he's out of the Findlay area. And I've worked with him on other historic restorations of buildings down in Cincinnati. Also a well-respected individual, and I've also worked with him on buildings in Illinois as well. So we asked Bill Walters to take a look at the building, and he too came up with the same conclusion: is it, it's just not safe to work on it and to subject his employees to trying to fix the building without doing massive amount of work to try to make the building safe before you could even do the demolition.
Next slide.
And this is also the same response letter we received from WR Restoration, also stating the same, that they just don't feel comfortable putting their employees near the building because of the safety aspects of the brick and its potential to fall.
Next, please.
So as you can see, this is another reiteration of the photos from before. Is the front wall of the building does have a significant bow in it, and there's not, again, part of the challenge of this building, and I know this has come up multiple times, is, this is just a facade system. It's something that can be easily repaired. Unfortunately, the way that wall is constructed is it's part of the structural system of the building. The brick facade is attached to the structural wall that supports the floors of the building. You can't merely remove the brick facade and correct the bow on the brick, because it's actually both the structural wall and the brick facade that are bowing outward. So to remove those walls, you would have to shore up the entire building to remove all of all of the brick facade that's failing. And unfortunately, that's the only way to fix the wall, is to basically tear the two walls down to the ground so that you can actually put it back together appropriately.
And there's no real way to tear the walls down short of using heavy equipment, because you can't take it down just one brick at a time, because you can't use scaffolding and you can't use man lift to even get in there. And trying to do any kind of stabilization to even try to drill anything into the wall could potentially make the wall catastrophically collapse immediately, because it's already beyond the point where it should have already failed already.
I have a question for Chris. Chris, this is Kim Johnson. My question is, was this, what you presented to us today, presented to the Landmarks Commission?
Yes.
Okay. And the same thing, the same support letters, the same reasoning, etc.
That is correct.
Okay.
Even far more than that.
Also, the Landmark Commission suggested we contact Kuhn, and Robert did contact Kuhn, and without success there as well.
Yes, once we did talk with Kuhn. I had several conversations with Kuhn. As soon as I actually gave them the address of the building, they no longer communicated with me. Because, I mean, they
I'm sorry, nobody likes you, Chris.
It's well, this, by the time we talked with Kuhn, it had already been going on for nearly a year. It's probably well known within the restoration community about this project.
Is Don Pettit with us this morning?
Yes, he is.
Okay. Don, unmute yourself. I'd like to hear from you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Donald Pettit, Secretary of the Cleveland Landmarks Commission. 4500 Lorraine is a contributing building in the Lorraine Avenue Historic District. This has been going through our process for more than a year now. We did site visits to the property. This was reviewed by the Ohio City Design Review Committee and disapproved. We also have letters from the councilman and Ohio City Incorporated disapproving of the demolition. We reviewed this in October. We tabled it, more information. We asked them to get a second opinion. Our goal all along was for them to explore alternatives to demolition. In November, we denied the application to demolish the building. But I want to make it clear that we realize that there are serious issues with this building. It's never been our position that, based on our action, that this is a safe building. There was a violation notice issued by the Department of Building and Housing, identifying that the facade represents a hazardous condition, but it wasn't a condemnation notice. We've heard the testimony. The Landmarks Commission has heard the testimony. We've read all the engineering reports, although Mr. Robeson's testimony is new today. He wasn't at the meeting prior. Our problem, I think the problem with the commission is that all of these assessments of the building lead to only one conclusion, and that's the total demolition of the building. And I think that's where the commission has an issue. We've seen lots of buildings in the past which had facade issues, and the alternative was not to demolish the entire building, but to fix the problem, to restore the facade, and to address the structural issues. So that's the bottom line. We think there's a serious hazard here to the public because clearly the facade is failing, but we don't agree that the solution is complete demolition. And we encourage the applicant to continue to explore options and to address the clear hazard that this building represents. And there needs to be some action taken to restore the facade.
Well, listening to the testimony by Chris, I guess, it was that you cannot just take it down brick by brick because it's also supporting the building. So how are you going to maintain that? And of course, that truck riding into it didn't help matters. Thank you very much. And I do remember reading about that.
Madam Chair, we also have Donna Gregonis.
Okay, let's hear from.
Good morning, Donna Gregonis with Ohio City Incorporated in Tremont West, the development director for the neighborhood. So again, I'd like to reiterate some of the same comments that I had at a few of the other meetings that we've had. Our organization is in opposition to the demolition request for this building. We have an issue with this proposal because it has been sitting for over 3 years. They have been attempting to demolish this building by neglect. Still to this date, they have not proven the case that they cannot repair this building. A core value of our neighborhood is maintaining the historic fabric, especially on a corridor such as Lorraine. There has been no economic analysis demonstrating that this is not feasible to renovate. And both our economic development committees and real estate and land use committees have both reviewed and are in support of denying the demolition to the building. And in regards to the business owner who is located at this building, the barber shop, I have been speaking with them and have correspondence with them stating that the business owner has only recently asked them to vacate after some of these meetings with them, and that they were asking them to vacate so that it would be a pretext to make it easier for them to demolish. So thank you. Those are my comments.
Okay, when was this building purchased by the owners that are there today?
2011.
2011. So for 9 years they've had it. Because the windows that were replaced were not historic to that building. I also noted the door and the back window. These windows are not okay in a historic district. So
I would like to say, one, I haven't been able to finish my presentation yet, but I would like to allow Christian to respond to the claim or the opinion that this building has been demolished by neglect. Our clients have continuously worked and maintained this building ongoing for the last now 10 years, only until recently to where our engineers and architects like myself who have basically come to the conclusion that it could not be salvaged. Our clients had always intended to maintain and fix this building from the beginning. Would you mind rolling back 2 slides, Maurice?
Sure.
One more. So I'd like to point out that you're hearing lots of opinions from people who are not professionals and engineers saying their opinion is that the building can be saved, that their opinion is all this. I'm telling you, we have 3 different engineers telling you that the building is beyond repair. I have 2 contractors who are unwilling to work on the building because it is an immediate threat to their personnel. The building cannot even be stabilized, much less repaired. We put in a scaffolding as the only thing that we could do without harming the building to protect individuals from falling bricks. So I'd like to point out that this is an excerpt from your own zoning code that indicates that the intent of the zoning code is public health and safety. This building is an immediate public health and safety issue. We've been trying to demonstrate this for the last year. We have hundreds and hundreds of pages from several contractors, engineers. We've been monitoring this building ongoing. It's taking this long because we can't seem to, I don't believe that people are actually reading our reports. We are telling you from our professional, we are licensed with the state of Ohio. We're telling you this building cannot be fixed. May move on to the next slide, please. Now, based on the Ohio Building Code itself, this comes to the preface from page 1, the cover sheet of the Ohio Building Code. The building code itself indicates that the intent of the building code is to protect public health and safety. You know, unnecessary and not provide unnecessary increase in construction costs. I can't tell you how frustrated I get. You know, I'm trying to talk. We as engineers and architects have been trying to get this thing across for so long, and everybody's thinking, well, they just think that it's just a facade repair. It's far more than just a facade repair. This problem goes into the very construction of this building. Once there's nothing left of the building to maintain once we take these 2 walls off. Last slide. So prohibiting the demolition of this building is directly contrary to the spirit and intent of both your zoning code and the Ohio Building Code. And we really honestly request that this demolition be granted on these grounds alone. Last slide. And this is why even though you don't have a full 5 people, this building needs to be we need to take care of the rest of this today. At this point, we've lost our protective scaffolding. A truck ran into it 2 weeks ago. All we have at this point is a construction fence that we place on the outside to prevent people from walking out around the building. But the tenant will not evacuate the building. And again, I'd like to implore on the board to finally do what's right and allow demolition of this building. Thank you.
Board questions?
Madam Chair, this is Liz.
Yes, Liz.
So there is a question about, it seems like these may be details that our Board of Building Standards should be reviewing. I guess the question would be to our law department, you know, what is her opinion on this? Is this really the forum that this should be being heard?
Madam Chair, also Don Pettit has his hand raised again.
Okay, let's hear from Don, and then I'll try to find an answer for Liz. Mr. Pettit?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to point out that it's the position of the Landmarks Commission that we disagree with the conclusions of all these engineering reports. We voted unanimously to disapprove this demolition in November. There is provision in the building code and in our code that gives the city authority to take down buildings with, you know, above and beyond our review. To date, the Commissioner Vanover, the chief building official of the city, has chosen not to do that. I can't speak for him today, but he doesn't believe that this is an imminent, represents an imminent threat to the public. It's the position of building and housing that they need to fix and address the violations. And I just want to make that clear that, you know, the building department could take this building down tomorrow if they felt it represented a serious hazard to the public. They decided not to do that.
Have we heard from the councilman by chance, Mrs. Kukla? Councilman McCormick?
I don't believe I have a letter. I haven't seen anything.
Okay.
Madam Chair, we have Mr. Pettit again.
Yes, Mr. Pettit again.
I'm sorry, I put my hand down. I'm sorry.
Board questions?
Madam Chair, I believe Liz posed the question, the legal question to Lori about if this is the proper form. So I'd like to hear that answer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I believe it is the proper form. This is an appeal from the Landmarks Commission decision, and that's all that's really before the board. So, yes, it is.
Okay, that answers your question. Alana, you had your hand up?
Well, I have the same question, but I have several others actually. And I think the first question will go to, actually, let me back up a little bit. Maurice, can we please go to the interior shots of the wall, the interior wall
Yes,
that's
ma'am.
been demoed?
Here?
Okay, not that one, the one that shows the full wall. Interior. There. Okay, so to my professionals in the building trades, can you explain to me the difference? I'm assuming the area that's bowing is where we see the difference in the masonry. We have clay brick above and below, and then we have what looks like basic runs of more horizontal brick there. What are the two, it looks like rusted pipes that run along that are going vertically? So explain to me what's going on with the horizontal masonry and the vertical, what looks like rusted pipe.
So typically, this is Robert, I'm one of the architects. So the building is, it was, I believe it caught fire and was rebuilt probably about 8 years ago. It was rebuilt kind of haphazardly with a mix of multiple different types of clay brick and tile, as you see in here. The clay tile has really no structural strength at all. As you can see, we have just indicated that the wall is actually bowed out beyond the point of where it should have already failed. The only reason that it is still staying is actually those wooden furring strips that are providing the minimal amount of tension that's keeping this wall from bowing out completely and falling.
And Robert, what are the dimensions of those furring strips?
Those
it looks like
they're about probably 1x2s.
Okay.
The other thing that I'd like to add to Robert's comments is the way that the wall is, and again, to fall back on it, it's not a facade issue, is if you look at how the wall is assembled, where you've got multiple courses of the clay tile, then you've got brick, and then you go back to clay tile. The courses of bricks that are in between the clay tiles are the ones that are actually tying the brick facade back to the structural clay tile, which is making that whole wall act as a unit, not just a brick facade that's kind of loosely hanging on the outside of the building. It's actually the clay tile that's actually shrinking out, which is allowing the front brick facade to move. Because when you look at the outside of the building, the mortar for the brick facade is actually in pretty good shape. It's the mortar for the structural clay tile that's falling apart and going bad.
So is there an masonry ties between the structural masonry wall and the brick facade?
No, it's the bricks are the tie between the brick facade and the clay tile.
But are masonry ties absent?
No, they're there.
So there's masonry ties in between the runs of the structural masonry, and they're tied into the brick facade.
That is correct.
Yeah, this is Owen Robinson. Let me just maybe do a point of clarification. This is a double life masonry wall, so there are no ties, no metal ties. It's just the brick and the speed tile. Yeah, the brick and the speed tile is just mortared together. So there's actually no metal reinforcement joining the inner and outer pipe. They were just laid up together as a single unit. The furring strips that you see there originally supported plaster that was put right onto the wall. And of course, they had come at the time and put a new drywall interior partition across there, which hid, of course, the bow that was in the wall.
So is it your estimation that there's weeping between the structural wall and the brick facade, or what do you think is the cause of the bowing?
My opinion on that is that there are loose-laid steel lintels above the windows. They have corroded. It expands when it corrodes. It put a lot of expansive pressure on the outer white. So after they grew, I guess you could say, and the inner white stayed the same size. And it simply pulled and broke that wall out.
So I'm sorry, you're breaking up a little bit. Can you go back to the lintels and why you think the lintels are causing the failure?
Well, they certainly contributed to the cost. But there are steel lintels above the windows. The horizontal leg of the steel lintels has corroded and expanded. And so that has pushed the brick apart. And it is the level of the steel lintel where we have the maximum bow, which is why I concluded it's a significant factor in the bowing of the window. And it's pushed it out, and of course it's hidden. And but once that interior drywall partition was removed, the full extent of that bowing is readily apparent.
So with this was a lath and plaster wall on the interior that you removed and then discovered this structural problem.
We believe that the original wall was just lath and plaster put right onto the masonry. That's typical for that time of construction. And then you can see that there's a later drywall put forward.
Just to let you get.
So has the
because I'm getting
there's a lot of feedback, guys. So you're gonna have to mute, please. So my next question is on the interior wall where you took the measurements. There is lath, and it looks like then drywall or some sort of. It looks like drywall's been applied on top of it. Has there been any alteration to the end of the lath? Or is the end of the lath that exists on the perpendicular wall, is that there from where it abutted to the original lath and plaster wall?
That goes back quite a period of time. It probably is part of the original construction, yes.
Okay. And can you explain to me what the rusted pipes are that are on the front wall? What do those go to?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? I didn't quite hear.
On the interior wall, what the rusted pipes are, the vertical rusted, they look like pipes, or are they furring strips?
Those are furring strips.
Okay.
Those are actually furring strips and electrical lines that ran up the wall of the building. And all of the materials that were pulled out, I pulled it down myself. When we were trying to investigate how bad the wall was from the inside.
Okay, Chris, you're talking and you pulled it down yourself. Okay, Chris, I read your report and you had recommended demolition, and you had also in your report had recommended the use of FRP as a possible method for repair or mitigation. Can you explain to me why you've ruled that out? Are we getting to a cost factor here between the price of repair, aside from the statements that were made about the repair not being viable because of hazardous situations? I just want to know if we're getting into a situation where demolition would be less expensive than the repair using the possible FRP method.
I could address that. I don't know how to raise my hand. I'm sorry. We had looked at the FRP system was a viable option a couple, maybe a year and a half ago, before we had gotten to the point where we discovered the wall was to the point of failure. The part of the process with the FRP system requires the contractor to be on the face of the building.
Just a minute, Robert. Somebody has to mute him. phone.
Thank you.
Okay, now I'd like to hear you.
I'm sorry. This was a viable option we were looking at in early 2019 when we first addressed the local Ohio City Landmarks Commission. The process would have involved scaffolding up the face of the building and anchoring fiberglass mesh to the face of the building and applying resins to tie the building together. So first of all, this was only a stopgap measure to potentially keep the building from falling down. It would have permanently altered the face of the building, and it would never have been the same. The reason this was ultimately rejected was, and you can read the WR Restoration's response letter, is that it required them to anchor into the face of the building. And after the wall had gotten to this point where it's beyond a point of it should have already failed, even drilling a single TAPCON into the face of the wall, they were concerned that the wall would literally explode and buckle out. So that's why this was this option was removed. And to be quiet, this particular option, again, it's been a year and a half, and I wasn't planning to talk about this, but I believe the cost of just this particular stabilization method was well over $200,000 to stabilize the building, and it would ultimately have to come down anyway. So that was one reason that particular option was taken out. We had looked at potentially steel buttresses to keep the wall from falling down. That would have required anchoring, steel buttresses in literally all the way out partially into the right to the edge of Lorraine Avenue. But the vibration of putting something like that in the ground and working around the utilities was also basically the contractor said it just wasn't feasible to even try it. And because to even try to touch the wall, they were afraid it would come down. We looked at other options of trying to place a steel beam across the front face of the building and tie it back, but there was nothing inside the building that's substantial enough to tie it back to, because the inside of the building is all wooden structure, which is also rotting and falling down. So that's the problem we have here is there's really, it looks on the face of this project, oh, you should be able to fix this. I have fixed several buildings myself. I've done some historic preservation projects, at least 2 or 3, some of which have gotten awards with the state. I personally thought that this building was salvageable until March of this last year. I was a skeptic.
That's what, Robert. That's why we came to you, is to actually redevelop the existing building. Not at all. It was never our intention to demolish this building at all.
I was a skeptic. I thought that Chris was potentially over exaggerating. I'll be honest, I did. That's why I started taking the measurements myself. These photos that show the measurements, those are pictures I took, and it has moved a total of 5/16 of an inch from the vertical since March of last year, which was 6 months after the point where Chris recommended that the building needed to come down and couldn't be fixed. So, I mean, we have, again, several professional, we're licensed architects and engineers. We're not giving you our opinions of just, of being, on an emotional state. We're trying, I don't want to take this down either. Our clients don't want to take this down. They would far rather just fix the building and rent it out. But it's just not, it's not really.
Robert, just backtracking a little bit, you were talking, I think, about having to sink TAPCONs into this to use the FRP method. Is that right?
That was one option we were looking at back in early 19, yes.
Right, and so you'd be trying to sink TAPCONs into these clay.
It would be from the outside of the building.
Right, but they need to sink into the clay foundation tile.
Robert, I'll take this one.
Yeah.
the way that the FRP system would be installed would they'd have to go in and mortar up all of the rake joints of the brick that's facing Lorraine and West 45th, so that they've got a smooth system or a smooth surface for the FRP system to bond to. They'd also have to dart the brick, which they drill a hole and either use the Tapcons or even wet out fiberglass fiber and inject and push into the hole to give the fiberglass roving that would be applied to the whole surface of the building something to bond to and bind the wall and the FRP system together. Once that was all put together, then you would have to coat the building because the epoxies and resins that they use to wet out the fiberglass, or not fiberglass, well, this application was fiberglass because, again, it would be a temporary fix, have to be coated so that the sun and UV doesn't wreck the structural integrity of the polymers they use to bind it all together. So when you're all said and done, the building would have looked far different than what it is today. And furthermore, it would also permanently have that bow in it. So there was really no way to get rid of the bow with what we have to work with right now. So, you know, there was, we put the FRP system on it, and we put a storefront on it, but it all circled back to one was it would never look like the historic building that it is, and then two, it was so cost prohibitive that it didn't make any sense, especially considering it's effectively a temporary repair. It's something that gets you maybe 5-10 years. 10 years is really pushing it, but more like 5 would be about the most you're going to get out of that FRP system.
And at that point, you'd have to demolish the building anyway because it's only a temporary stopgap solution.
Okay. Madam Chair, may I ask a question of Mr. Pettit, please?
Go right ahead.
Mr. Pettit, is any of this information anything new that you've heard that you didn't, that the Landmarks Commission did not hear?
We did not hear Mr. Robinson's testimony at our meeting, and the rendering for the new redevelopment is something we haven't seen yet. But other than that, everything else is consistent. Okay.
And so the rendering for the new building you've not seen before. Is that correct? Is that what you just said?
That's correct.
Okay. All right.
But for us, the new development is not the issue. The issue is the demolition.
Right.
Madam Chair, this is Liz Kukla.
Yes, Liz.
Are there engineers? This is the question, I guess, would be to Donald Pettit. I'm sorry, I don't know the answer to this. Are there engineers or architects or other similar professionals on the Landmarks Commission that would have been able to dig deep into the reports that were submitted?
We do have an architect on the commission. We have a member who's experienced in doing building renovations. Robert Strickland is an engineer. We don't have a PE. We don't have a professional engineer on the commission, but we have a lot of members who have familiarity with restoring buildings, and but we don't have an actual engineer.
This is Lori Wagner. I'd like to ask Don a question. Is it your understanding that there's a legal requirement in the ordinance that a redevelopment plan be submitted? Because you have indicated to the board that that wasn't a consideration in this case. Was the demolition refused because no redevelopment plan was submitted?
No, I didn't mean to imply that.
Okay.
As part of our procedures, we for demolition, we always look at the demolition issues, the condition, the integrity, historic integrity. We look at the economics, but we never act on a demolition until we've approved a plan that will be developed after the building is gone. So that's a key part of this. We definitely want a replacement here that's going to enhance the historic district and justify the demolition. But you know, our bottom line issue was with our disagreement that the building has to come down.
I guess I was just trying to clarify the point of whether the commission would be open to reconsideration if a redevelopment plan was submitted, or the commission is taking the position that since it believes the demolition isn't necessary, that it's refusing the refusing the request. And I guess the second part of that is whether the people, the owners, are interested in submitting a redevelopment plan if the commission would agree to the demolition.
Well, just to clarify, we have seen a redevelopment plan. The commission had a lot of issues with it in terms of design and appropriateness for the site. We just haven't seen the one that was presented today. That's all I'm saying.
Well, that's my thing too. I don't like the plan that was been submitted. It's too contemporary. I think if we could do something a little more that would enhance the shuffleboard building up next to it and all, because the fact that the first thing I noticed on this plan was these contemporary windows that evidently they never got any approval from Landmarks to put them in, because you would not have okayed them in this historic building.
I would like to point out that Don is correct. This particular, and I only provided this as part of the proposal just to show that, you know, there is an intent to redevelop it. This particular rendition has not been seen by Don, and at this point, it's not ready to be presented. We have not even had a chance to talk with the local people regarding the design committees, because at this point, we haven't even been approved to move forward on the project. So, you know, to move forward. So we would absolutely, you know, work with the neighborhood on the new design of the new building. That, you know, I just wanted to make that known, you know, and that Don is correct. This is not something he has seen. And it's not our intent to, you know, provide something that overpowers the shuffleboard building. You know, Jim Makito, who's the owner of the shuffleboard building, is also one of my clients. It's just how we got brought into the project originally, because I'm his architect for his building. So the last thing I want to do is to build a building that would be damaging to another one of my clients as well. So this is something we would absolutely work with the city on the design of the new redevelopment. Should we be allowed to move forward to that level of the project?
Thank you very much, Mr. Powell.
Madam Chair.
Alana.
Thank you. Mr. Powell, did you do the rendering that we saw of the proposed, or not proposed, but the possible new building? Was that your work?
Not mine personally, but I have people who are much better than me. But yes.
Okay. All right. Is it possible to rework that?
Oh, absolutely.
So that more closely replicates the existing building, particularly in terms of the architectural details that are so consistent with the period of when the building was built.
If you can scroll back a couple pages to the original building, we can do that. Look at that one. Just go back like 2 or 3. One more. Yes, we could absolutely incorporate some of those details in the stone cornice and the cast concrete pieces. That's absolutely 100% something we can do. Again, we were just trying to show something that was, in keeping with what we thought would be, in the area, but we weren't necessarily trying to duplicate the old building exactly. But if that is something that would like to be done, we could do that. We also added a third floor based on the discussions with Landmarks, just on the discussions last time. So we added the third floor because they kind of like the idea of maybe making that corner a little bit more substantial. So that's why we added the third floor. The original plan with Don saw, it was only 2 stories.
Madam Chair, we have Kelly Britt with her hand raised. Also,
Yeah,
sorry,
yeah.
Alana, didn't mean to cut you off.
That's okay. Kelly, would you mind if I just finish my statement?
Please, go ahead.
Okay. So I think I can't speak for the Landmarks Commission, but I personally would like to see, if the path were to go down that this building were to be demoed, if elements of it could be salvaged and incorporated, I imagine that there's a date or a date stone or a name stone in the front facade of the building up there above the second floor, things like that. If those things could be salvaged and incorporated into the new building, it's certainly something that I would like to see and might be something that would help you down the road. And I'll yield the floor to Kelly. Thank you.
Go ahead,
My question, could someone just very briefly, without a long drawn out explanation, just give me what the historical significance of this building is besides the fact it was built in a certain year?
Maybe that's a Don Pettit question.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, and Ms. Britt. The building has kind of a murky history. There's a long permit history. We think it may have been built in 1894 or the late 1890s. At some point, we think that the brick facade was added later. It doesn't have any particular historical significance in terms of who lived there. It's a typical stores and suites building on Lorraine Avenue. It's had numerous tenants over the years, but our real concern is that it contributes to the historic character of the street, and we think it's architecturally significant, but we don't know a lot more about its history.
This is Lori Wagner. I just want to clarify the questions I was asking. I think I was playing more of a Jim Donovan role to see if there's some kind of possibility of resolution of this outside of the board making a decision. And the question was really whether the Landmarks Commission is interested in revisiting its opinion if the decision was based on a lack of a redevelopment plan, or they were reinterested in revisiting that based on a possible new redevelopment plan. I think the answer we're getting here is no, so I think the board needs to go ahead and determine whether the Landmark Commission ruling was justified. That's all.
Mr. Pettit? Madam Chair, to Mr. Pettit, please.
Yes.
Is that correct? I thank Ms. Wagner for bringing up that point, and I do think we're trying to find some sort of compromise here. Would the Landmarks Commission not be interested in revisiting this if they had a stronger presentation for plans for reconstruction of the building?
I think we would welcome further redevelopment of the future plan. My problem is that we've denied the demolition, and what we were presented with was one option, which is total demolition of the building. I don't know how we go back and revisit that unless something changes in terms of the proposal. We want, if we have to demolish the building, we want a great building put back on the site. And the applicants are free to explore a better design for that building. I don't know how we get around our denial of the demolition at this point. I don't think it's enough for us to have a beautiful new building that we support. Our bottom line problem right now is that we can't support the demolition, and I don't know how we get back unless the applicants come to us with some new proposal that provides a middle ground, and I can't imagine what that is right now.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
This is Liz. So the question to Mr. Or Secretary Pettit through the chair is, does the Landmarks Commission consult our own engineering department and our own architects with these reports? It would be interesting to see if the findings are supported by our own professionals here at the City of Cleveland.
I know that the building department used to have an engineer on staff. I don't know if they do anymore. We rarely consult with the Division of Engineering and Construction because they generally don't get involved in private demolitions, but that could be an option. I'll reiterate again that it's the position of the Department of Building and Housing that the applicant should be addressing the violation and not necessarily tearing down the building.
And Madam Chair, just a further question about the BBS. Looking at the charter, the Board of Building Standards has an architect on board with at least 10 years experience. They have a professional engineer that has at least 10 years experience. They have a professional builder on their commission. And the charter also states that the jurisdiction of the Board of Building Standard is to hear and decide appeals from any order, requirement, or decision, determination of any administrative official or agency or of the city relating to materials, construction, alteration, repair, removal, or demolition of any building. Again, with all this information that they're submitting today, again to Lori, should we postpone and have a legal review of this to see if maybe, again, that the Board of Building Standards should be the body, as we don't have, Ms. Faith is doing a fantastic job with her technical review. But again, we don't have the ability to review these reports as thoroughly as the Board of Building Standards would, and perhaps we could have them just review the reports without having a full hearing. And this would be a question to Lori through the chair.
And that sounds like a suggestion, but this is not before the Board of Building Standards. It's a review of Landmarks Commission, and it's up to each party to present the evidence to Landmarks Commission and now to this board that they think supports their position. So there really is no provision to send this over to Board of Building Standards. I think the BZA needs to make a decision as to whether, under the legal standard I stated, whether it was illegal, arbitrary, capricious, or unsupported by the preponderance of substantial, reliable, and probative evidence. They need to make that decision based on what is before it right now.
So, I'm sorry, Madam Chair, to Ms. Wagner. If the case before us now, if we do not overturn the landmarks decision, then the recourse for the appellant is to take it to Building and Housing. Is that correct? An appeal to that board?
That is not correct. The recourse for the appellant is to take it to Common Police Court. This just isn't, it's not a building official decision, and so the Board of Building Standards has no jurisdiction.
Okay, thank you.
If there are no other questions, I will entertain a motion. Ms. Britt?
Yeah, I had to unmute. Yeah, so I listened to the arguments today, and yes, also putting up front that I am not any kind of structural engineer or historic building professional, but I have not been convinced that this building can't come down. So my motion would be to overturn the landmarks decision.
Second. Call the roll.
Ms. Faith?
Just to clarify, we're voting that the decision is that the building can come down. Is that correct, Ms. Britt?
Yes.
Correct.
Correct, yes. My vote is yes.
Ms. Barnes? Ms. Barnes, you may be muted.
Yoo-hoo, Ms. Barnes.
Okay, I'll go to Ms. Britt. Ms. Britt?
Yes.
And Ms. Johnson?
Yes, but I would like to make an addendum that what they put up in its place has a historic value representing similar to what was there in their new.
Okay, would Ms. Britt like?
That.
Okay, sorry.
Lori, is that in our purview?
Well, any reconstruction, any new construction will need to be reviewed by all the appropriate city agencies.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, calendar 20-206, the appeal from the Landmarks Commission decision has been approved, and we will ratify this on January 25th and send you a letter.
Thank you very much. Robert, we are having trouble evicting the barber there. I don't know if there's anything you can add.
Matthew, let's talk offline, but I think we can our lawyers can be able to handle that better now that we have the appeal in hand.
Okay.
I'd just like to add from my perspective, thank you guys. You've taken a huge weight off my shoulders because I was really, really concerned about the public safety out there. And you don't know how much you've set me at ease at this point that we know that we're moving forward.
Mr. Powell, sorry, Mr. Powell, just the last question. Can you tell me with the age of the building, is that balloon construction or not? Do you know?
It's block. It's not a balloon.
Right, but the interior wooden structure, does that go both floors or is it built?
The interior wooden structure it's no interior. There's no wood structure on the perimeter at all.
Okay.
That's part of the problem, and it's literally removing all the bearing walls to do anything.
Right. Okay. All right.
Okay. Thank you very much.
We're good.
You're
We're
welcome.
good. Thank you. Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you.
Get rid of everybody but the board members.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Now we're going to do old business.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you.
That's all right. 1, 2, 3, and 4 without objection, board.
Without objection.
Without objection.
Okay, and we have a request for an affirmation on Rocky River. The veterinary clinic, they need more time to complete the construction documents. Without objection?
Without objection.
Okay, all right. Anything
Mayor,
else?
I have nothing else. If there's no other conversation, I move we adjourn.
Second.
See you in 2 weeks, everybody. Take next Monday off.
Yay, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Enjoy.
You too.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Nice short one today.
Yeah.